Hi, this is Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine and the Radiance channel on the Xpnsion network here. I have with me Cassandra Carlopio. We're here at the Mindfulness Expo in Anaheim Convention Center. Cassandra, welcome.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Great. You are a meditation teacher, a sleep expert, and a performance coach for executives and athletes, and one leads right naturally into the other because you said sleep has a lot to do with your performance as an athlete and an executive. Can you speak to that?
I can. So, let's back up for a minute. Sleep affects every moment of your waking life.
Sure.
And we all have the experience. If you have a bad night's sleep, your ability to think clearly is a little impaired perhaps the next day. Your emotional regulation is kind of all over the place. Your ability to logically analyze, your ability to perform. There's the research out there is really clear now that sleep is key for any type of performance, whether it's cognitive, emotional, psychological.
Sure.
It affects, I always feel like the quality of your sleep directly affects the quality of your waking life.
And I agree with that. And if I accept that and I just agreed with myself that I'm just going to get my 8 hours, what more could you add to that?
That's a good question. Most people are actually not even giving themselves the chance to get 8 hours. We're so busy, our lives are so full, we have, technology, we have families, we have jobs, we have so much going on.
Sure.
So the giving yourselves the 8 hours is amazing, but if you're in any type of kind of stressed state, if you're heavily caffeinated, if you have alcohol in your system, unfortunately, if you have any type of breathing or airway issue,
yes,
your body is not going to let you go down through the proper stages of sleep. So you might be getting the 8 hours, but your 8 hours are not the same quality, and you're not going to feel as rested and rejuvenated the next day.
So you would help diagnose those problems?
Absolutely. Diagnose the problems, and then my specific expertise is helping anyone who's had any type of trauma around sleep. And you'd be surprised how many people, so many people have stories when I was a kid, I was terrified of the dark, or when I was a kid, I would hear my parents fighting as I'm falling asleep, or I was scared of monsters under the bed, or people have actually had, awful incidents happen at nighttime or around bedtime. So the body learned at that point in time that it wasn't necessarily safe to go into a deeply relaxed state to then go to sleep, because when we're asleep, we're kind of at our absolute most vulnerable.
Sure.
So if the body or the nervous system is in any kind of stress, anxiety, or trauma response, the body's actually going to resist going into deep sleep. And actually on that point, they did some interesting research with undergraduate students who get the brunt of all the research.
Right.
They asked a group of undergrad students to go to sleep in a functional MRI machine. Okay. Which, if you've ever had an MRI, and what they found was half of the brain, the left hemisphere, actually resisted going into deep sleep that first night in the MRI machine. Okay. And then the second night, they made them sleep again in an MRI machine, and they found that then both hemispheres went nicely through the sleep stages. Okay. Which is leading people to think, perhaps, that part of our brain is so orientated to keeping us safe that if you're in a new environment, they call it the first night effect, when you go traveling, you're in a new hotel, you never sleep as well, because essentially part of your brain is tracking your environment, making sure am I safe? Sure. So if being in a new environment can create that type of hypervigilance and awareness in your brain, if you've had any type of anxiety or trauma or stress in your life, that's going to greatly impair your body's ability to go through the sleep stages and go down into those deep restorative stages that we need so much. So these executives and athletes that you work with are going to go through some kind of process with you. Are you watching them sleep? Are you just asking them questions, or how does that work? So I do have a full diagnostic interview But so in 2 parts, most people, I'm teaching them themselves the techniques to put themselves into a deeply relaxed state prior to sleep, so that once you're in bed, the mind's nice and quiet, the body is nice and relaxed, and then you can drift off to sleep. But I work as well with a sleep and breathing clinic in Westwood.
Okay.
I love the Breathe Institute. And if there's any type of structural or airway issue, they're really good at diagnosing and treating that. So it's such a, we think about, we were joking about this before, people think, there's these 4 tips to get better sleep.
Right. You said it's more nuanced than that.
It's much, much more nuanced than that. So it really requires a full assessment and looking at all the different elements. There's also, hypothyroidism can show up as insomnia.
Right.
There's if someone isn't able to breathe properly through their airway, that's good, So it's important to look at the whole picture, basically.
So it sounds like because you're a meditation teacher, a sleep expert, and a performance coach, people needing and executives and athletes coming from any of those perspectives, they can get help from you. They know they got to up their performance. Maybe they suspect sleep is a part of it, or maybe they just know they have a sleep problem, and you could come in from that angle. How can people reach you to get help?
They can find me on my website. It's probably the easiest, www.CassandraCarlopio.com. I have links there. I have meditation on Spotify and YouTube.
Okay, so I'm going to spell it. So Cassandra, spelled the normal way, and then Carlopio, CarLopio.com.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks everybody for watching on the Xpnsion Network.